Preeti Venkatramani has been a member of Parker Speakeasies Club for the past 3 years. Her love for language is what drew her to Toastmasters. She has several leadership roles at the club, area, and district levels. She also writes the DTM blog for District 10 and is currently serving the district as the Eastern Division Director, managing a team of 6 area directors and serving 26 clubs. As an introvert herself, Preeti has first-hand experience of what is it to navigate a world in which there is a bias towards extroverted behavior. She wishes to unlock the introverted treasure chest where individuals can see, accept, and harness their introverted strengths so that they can lead well hand in hand with extroverts in harmony. Are you now ready to step into leadership? Without further delay, let's welcome our presenter, Preeti Venkatramani.
Thank you, moderator Srikanth. Before we begin, I want you to reflect on this question. How did your introversion help you in 2020? Have you thought about that? A study done recently checked the mental health of people during the pandemic, and it found that introverts fared much better than extroverts during the lockdown. And this is because introverts' need for social interactions is naturally less. So they were more mentally stable during long periods of social isolation. So your personality trait actually helped you in one of the toughest times in human history. And this trait, you were born with it. Now let's visualize that today we are going to walk across a bridge, and that is called the bridge to leadership. So before we step on the bridge, we will gather some strengths and leadership styles and how do they correlate to each other. Midway, we will cover strategies and techniques. And as we get off, we will learn how to take steps to get into leadership. Now, I want you to think of how do you actually perceive your introversion? Do you consider it as a defect, a handicap, or a problem which you get judged for? If you think so, I want you to reframe that from the concept of yin and yang. Yin and yang is of ancient Chinese philosophy, which talks about the duality in nature. Everything in nature consists of complementary forces which are actually interdependent on each other. For example, wet and dry, hot and cold, big, small, day, night, whatever you can think of, it always has a complementary force. And so our personalities, extroversion or introversion, are complementary forces of nature too. And that's what keeps things in balance and life interesting. And if you look at the yin and yang circle, there's not like a direct line in between splitting into two halves. It's basically two inverted commas. So which means in one situation, one behavior has preference or greater strength, and in another, the secondary. So in some situations, extroverted behavior is better, some situations, introversion. And if you learn to leverage that, use the right behavior in the right occasion, the satisfaction you will get out of your experiences will be way higher. Now you may think, what exactly is introvert or extrovert? Introvert is a personality trait which determines your preferences on certain things. Your preferences for alone time, long thinking periods, and your preference to not be socially engaged all the time. If you're socially engaged all the time, it actually drains you. An extrovert, on the other hand, loves people and company. The more, the merrier, and the more you get to interact, the more charged up they get. And what this means really is that it's actually a behavior range. No one is one or the other 100% of the time, or like only way to live. We all live in a range. And for us, the range varies. So for example, for one person, they may be 80% introvert, 20% extrovert. Another person may be 60% introvert, 40% extrovert. So our range varies and our behavior varies accordingly. So in this example, this is the amount of introversion this individual prefers. This is where they feel totally zen and happy with themselves or whatever activity they're engaged in. On this side is the comfortable. This is the amount of extroversion they like. Now, it doesn't matter what your range is. From time to time, you have to stretch yourself. Our personality is like a rubber band. And you have to stretch yourself from time to time and put yourself in uncomfortable situations so that when the need comes, when an occasion comes where you have to step up, you have the ability to do so. And you have the strength and the stamina to actually deal with that pressures of that situation well. Now you may be thinking, what are leadership styles? So Daniel Goleman is a very famous psychologist who studied leadership behavior for years. And he came up with these 6 styles: affiliative, authoritative, coaching, democratic, pace setting, and visionary. And these are the common introverted styles: active listening, attention to detail, calm, creative, cautious, empathetic, innovative ideas, planning, thinking through ideas, and writing well. Now, all these information and whatever we will be covering today will be in the slides we will hand out in the end. There'll be a handout. So you don't have to worry about remembering anything. You just have to get your brain going and thinking about how they correlate. So we'll start with one fun activity. Now we have 10 strengths on the left side, and we have 6 leadership styles on the top. So I am asking for 10 volunteers. You just raise your hand and let us know what is your favorite strength. And we will check which are leadership styles it naturally falls into. So could we get our first volunteer, please?
Sneha Mannar.
Okay, Sneha, which is your favorite leadership strength?
Mine is attention to detail.
Okay. So if you click on attention to detail, this is a strength which is universal. It doesn't matter which leadership style you have, having that skill will help you across the board. Alicia, I see you've raised your hand. What's your favorite strength?
My favorite strength is innovative ideas.
Okay. So innovative ideas is very good if you're a pace setting or a visionary leadership style. Could you get one more name? Karen, what's your favorite strength?
My favorite strength is empathy.
Okay. Empathy is very good if you're affiliative, coaching, or democratic leadership style. Sharonda, what's your favorite strength? Can you hear me, Sharonda?
Good morning. Sorry about that. Mine is creative.
Okay. So creative is very good if you're in coaching, pace setting, or visionary leadership style. Karen, what's your favorite strength?
My favorite strength is think through ideas.
Okay. Think through ideas is very good if you're affiliative, coaching, democratic, pace setting, visionary. We need few more volunteers.
Pretty Selena has volunteered.
Okay, Selena, what's your favorite strength?
Mine was actually think through ideas as well.
Okay, pick another one then.
So I'll do
cautious, double check details.
Okay. So cautious is very good if you are affiliative, coaching, or democratic leadership style. And we have a few more.
PT, this is Srikanth. I would like to be calm.
Okay, calm. That's a good one. So calm,
true.
calm is very good for affiliative, coaching, and democratic leadership style. Yes, Pat.
Active listening.
Okay. Active listening is very good if you are affiliative, coaching, or democratic leadership style. We have a couple more.
We have Lauren.
I write well, generally speaking.
Okay. So write well is a universal skill. It doesn't matter which leadership style. It's a strength of communication. So that's, beautiful if you have that. And we have one more.
Mark.
Mark, what's your strength? Oh, I think we have only planning, organizing left. So let's just go with that.
That would be the.
So planning and organizing is again a universal skill. Doesn't matter which leadership style. It's very useful to have. So what you're seeing is you already have a base set of strengths to start your leadership journey. So it's not like something you have to reinvent the wheel. You already have some basic strengths which helps you in the leadership journey. And our handouts will have the quiz where you can assess your leadership style. So once we get off this education session, you can do that at home later. Now we are midway. We are midway to strategies and techniques. You may be wondering who are some of the influential introverts. So let's explore them. First is Susan Cain. She wrote a book in 2012 called Quiet. And this book details the strengths of introverts and how they can be leveraged for beautiful, productive activities in life. And she also had an opinion on how organizations, such as companies, schools, or any other, public places, need to keep the needs of introverts in mind in terms of how they build their offices or how communication happens, so that introverts' productivity can be leveraged. This book was groundbreaking, and so many people have taken her ideas and started to make changes to help introverts thrive in their environments too. And she has a very famous TED Talk, and definitely check that out. And when I read this book in 2012, I felt I had found my soul sister. There were so many feelings I had inside, which finally had words to express. So I could connect with her and the emotions she had. And I was like, yes, there are other people who think like this too. So she's an awesome resource. Definitely read her book and check her TED out. Next is Peter Drucker. Now, Peter Drucker spent a long time thinking how organizations and people work together and how to get the best out of people so that whatever goals they have set, they can achieve it. And his ideas, management philosophies are used across the globe in companies, organizations, everywhere. In fact, if you've done an MBA, you have definitely read some of his books. And if you have not even done an MBA, you are influenced by his ideas every day, where you work, where you volunteer, where you study, because those principles are used in an everyday situation now. And last is Jackson Pollock. Now, Jackson Pollock was a very rebellious introvert, but he didn't know how to express his feelings. In fact, his brother was also very good in art, but art at the time was very stifling and very rigid and structured, and he didn't like any of that. So his way of rebel was to totally break the rules and come out with a new art form. And when he did so, he was ridiculed and made fun of. But today, if you think about it, abstract art is everywhere. In fact, in the evening, go around your house. You will find at least one object which has abstract art in it. And if you find it, you can thank Jackson Pollock for it. Now, how did these introverts thrive? What did they do to get the best productive output? while honoring their introversion. So first is, set an acceptable amount of events you will go to on a monthly basis and stick to it guilt-free. So for some of us, it may be 10, for some it may be 6, for some it may be 5. Whatever your number is, stick to it so that what will happen is you will be able to go out as much as you are comfortable with, but stay home and recharge yourself so that you feel happy. Next is, which category of social events do you enjoy the most? This we will cover in the next slide. Third is, schedule time to recharge yourself. It is absolutely imperative to honor your introversion. If you don't honor it, you won't have the energy to do your best work or the energy to socialize. So honoring yourself is very important to get the best out of you. And last is, resolve conflicts effectively. Now, introverts are famous for avoiding conflict. They will do anything to avoid a conflict. But if you avoid a conflict for too long, that frustration keeps building in your system and it leads to resentment. And that is not healthy for you. And if you get into leadership, at some point or the other, you have to deal with conflict. So if you learn that, it makes everyone's life easier. And we will cover that too later. So the first social zone we have to evaluate is, which is quicksand. Now, quicksand situations are places where you feel miserable. For some of us, it may be a networking event. For some of us, it may be a family Thanksgiving dinner. Whatever really makes you miserable would come under this bucket. Next is sidewalk events. These are general everyday occasions at work, at home, or social occasions, which are fairly easy to handle. And even if there's some ups and downs, it's bearable. Last is magic carpet events. This is where you thrive. You feel alive. You feel like I can be myself. You're around people who charge you. So this is the place where you should spend your most time. And your goal should be, as you evaluate your social zones, decrease the quicksand events in your life and increase the magic carpet events. So you're shifting your calendar to places where you actually want to go rather than you have to drag your feet to go. And that itself will give you more energy over time. Confrontation is like a dirty word. No one wants to deal with it, but it is required. So how you deal with it is, you express your feelings specifically. You express your behavior specifically, and you tell the impact. So it's like a 3-rule formula, FBI. And here's an example. When you keep breaking the promise of helping me clean the garage, I feel that my needs are not valued. And if this behavior continues, I will lose trust in your words. So if you see, breaking the promise is a specific behavior. Not valued is a specific feeling. Lose trust is a specific impact. And try this at home. Start with a simple thing at home. Test it with your families. Test it with your friends. Over time, you'll get the confidence, and when it comes to in a bigger situation at work or someplace else, you can clearly state your feelings. And most people are thankful when you express your feelings clearly. Now we have one more fun quiz. Let's see how good you are in observing human behavior. I'm going to list some names and you have to guess, are they an introvert or an extrovert? So let's have some volunteers. Who's our first one? Yes, Alicia. You get Benjamin Franklin, introvert or extrovert?
Introvert.
He was actually an extrovert.
Wow.
Could I get one more volunteer?
Selena.
Yes, Serena. You get Bill Gates.
I'm going to say introvert.
You are correct. In fact, people confuse introversion with shyness, but introversion is actually just a need to spend long time alone and thinking, while shyness is hesitating to express opinion. And Bill Gates loves thinking for long, but he has no hesitation in expressing his ideas. Yes, Chad, you're next. JF Kennedy.
I'm thinking he's an extrovert.
You are correct, Chad. One more.
Lauren.
Yes, Lauren. You get Eminem.
Extrovert.
He was actually an introvert. He moved a lot during his childhood and he never got around to build, relationships with people. So as an introvert, it took him time, and all that frustration came out through his music. One more.
I will.
You get Dr. Seuss.
Introvert.
You are correct. In fact, when Dr. Seuss got famous, he actually started to, avoid going out. And that was not because of his introversion. It was because when children met him, they used to be so disappointed to see him. In their mind, he was some jolly old grandpa who was always laughing. But in real life, he was a serious and a simple man. So just to avoid the disappointment, he stopped going out much. One more?
Can try.
Okay. Muhammad Ali.
Extrovert.
Yes, you're correct. Could you have one more volunteer?
I can try Preeti. This is Srikanth.
Yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I would think he's an extrovert.
You are correct. We need a few more volunteers.
Lisa D.
Okay, Lisa, you get J.K. Rowling.
Introvert?
You are correct. Last one.
I'll volunteer.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You get Elon Musk.
Me?
Yes.
I would say that he's an extrovert times 10.
No, he's actually an introvert.
Wow.
He loves problem solving, and even if you see his interviews, he's quite awkward because he's focused on a message, he's able to communicate, but general interactions, not so well.
True.
Now we have come to the last step. As soon as we get off the bridge, what actions can we take to learn to step into leadership? So we will have to first rewire our idea of intelligence. When we think of intelligence, people think of IQ only. However, Howard Gardner, a very famous psychologist, studied human intelligence for a long time. And he has broken that down into 9 different aspects. First is naturalist, someone who's very good with nature. Next is musical, people who are very gifted in music. Third is logical, mathematical. So this would where traditional IQ will fall under. Fourth is existential. So philosophers and dreamers will come under that. Interpersonal are people who are very good with others' emotions, able to interpret very quickly. Bodily kinesthetic. So these are people with great hand-eye coordination, and all famous athletes will fall under that. Linguistic. These are people who are very good with words, whether spoken or written. Intrapersonal. People who are very good at understanding themselves, their own motivations, their gut reactions, their feelings, why do they behave the way they do. And last is spatial. People who are good in 3D visualization of world. So explorers, adventurers, and even architects, people who build buildings, or urban planners who build cities will come under that. So we have different intelligences which we can leverage for our own use. So how do you step into leadership? First is you have to determine which intelligences are natural to you. And this is all in the handout. So you just have to, focus on the thought process right now. And all of us have 1 to 3 natural intelligences, which we have to leverage. Second, you have to ask yourself, where are you using your intelligences currently? Are you using them at work, at home, or somewhere else? And if you're not using them, you have to find a place where you can start using them. So for example, if your intelligence is bodily kinesthetic and you're good in sports, where can you start coaching children, whether it's swimming, soccer, tennis, whatever it is? Start using that to get into leadership. Next is, if you are using them, increase the productivity of your intelligence. Increase the skill level and train others. So this will start creating a virtuous cycle. So for example, if you're an accountant and you're very good with logical mathematical skills, this is how you'll do it. Increase your skill level in that particular accounting field. Explain what you know well. Explain the accounting principles, concepts to others in your team or in your company in detail. Train junior accountants. Tell them what you know so that they pick up the skills and get to your level. As a result, you'll start getting leadership opportunities. And when you get them, do accept them. And then lead in your strengths and intelligences. Since it's already natural to you, it will be much easier as an introvert to lead in those fields. So what you're doing is you're creating a virtuous cycle. And you keep repeating them and you keep improving on them. And a way to visualize this is, you're a pencil. And this pencil is you with all your strengths and intelligences. And this is a sharpener, which represents the people and the responsibilities of your life. So what you have to do is you have to match your skills and intelligences towards the responsibilities and people. And as you keep moving, you keep increasing the virtuous cycle. And over time, what will happen is, as you keep improving, you get a sharp pencil. So your goal has to be, use your strengths and intelligences and become a sharp pencil and lead well. So thank you for your participation. I'm also writing about it in a blog called Introverts Are Great Leaders Too.blogspot.com. You can explore that and read some more. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at preethiv.toastmasters@gmail.com. And now we can open it up for question and answer.
Hi, thank you so much for good, strong presentation. Did you say we'll get the slides?
Yes. Zoom moderator, can you please put the 2 handouts in the chat?
Yes, I'm doing that. Thank you.
And my quick question was, and I missed that, you said there was a difference between shyness and being introvert. Could you please expound a little bit on that?
Yeah. So shyness is more like if a person has grown up with, say, a lower self-esteem or, circumstances have made them not feel confident about themselves. That leads to shy, where they don't believe in or feel that their opinions or ideas matter. Well, introversion is a natural preference where a person feels more comfortable or enjoys their own company a lot. So an introvert, he or she may not generally like to go out or, dominate a conversation much. But that's just natural preference. Shyness is the circumstances in life which make you feel, not worthy of expressing your opinion. And usually with behavioral therapy and all, a lot of shyness can be overcome and you can, get that confidence. Toastmasters is a perfect platform for that, in fact. But introversion is just a personality trait you're born with. So those are the 2 differences.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have any more questions?
We have one question in the chat from Sundari Chilkuri. If a child is an introvert, is it a good idea to encourage them to get out of their shell, or should we just let them figure it out on their own?
So this I can tell from personal experience. One of my kids is an introvert. And as an introvert myself, I have communicated that it is not a defect. It is just a preference. So when they do want to be alone, I let them be. But I also keep restating the fact that when you need to speak up, you should speak up. So you should honor your introversion, but you should not hold back yourself so much that your ideas and thoughts are not expressed. And another way to deal with it is that whenever he or she expresses the ideas, pay proper attention. So slowly their confidence builds, because children usually take a longer time to speak up than, say, adults in terms of bigger ideas, not simple home stuff. So encourage them, but when they want to withdraw, whether at a social occasion or any other place, respect that. Because it's like the same rubber band thing. You have to allow them to stretch slowly so that by the time they're adults, they can handle much more than what they are right now.
Thank you, Preeti. We have more questions in the chat. One from Karen. How do we start the process of stepping into leadership positions?
So first is, if you think about it, based on the 2 handouts which have been added to the chat, you assess your leadership style. And in that handout, you can also list your strengths. And through that, you can start at least with 3 simple ideas on whichever your leadership style top 3 comes into. Look into that and start taking that action in your club or any simple, it's church, wherever it's a non-threatening environment where you feel confident enough to express your opinion. Once you start doing that, usually in a few months' time, you will start to gain the experience and the ability to create impact at a higher scale. So it's a virtuous cycle, like I mentioned. It's like a spring. You keep going up slowly. You cannot go like this. You keep doing this. In a few months, in a few years, you'll be at a place where you will be stunned. That's what happens. So it's just slow and steady wins the race. Like that's the fable, the first fable we learned, but it is so true. Nothing beats that at all.
We have more questions in the chat. One from Mark W. Can you mention the names of the other books you mentioned in your presentation? I think Preeti is going to share the presentation with the audience, so maybe you can get it from them.
Shrikant, have you added the 2 PDFs in the chat?
Yes, I did.
Yes, so that PDF, both the PDFs, the handout one has all the author names. So it's there, but it is Susan Cain. That's the book. It's a must read if you're an introvert, and also if you have introvert in your family, because a lot of conflict starts at home. If you are an extrovert and your spouse is an introvert or your child is an introvert, you have to manage the expectations. If you start managing the expectations at home first, it will be so much easier when you're in a work environment or church or wherever, any other place. The thing about introversion is it's not like they don't like human contact. It's just that they need it less. Because man is a social animal. We need human contact to be happy. However, the need is less. So if you set the thermostat correct, how much out, how much in, your balance is maintained internally. And then when you have to be an extrovert and present or do any other activity, you can do it with so much more ease because your battery is charged. So definitely check out that book. And here it is. It's one of my favorite books on earth. I have read it 2 or 3 times. Every time I read it, I feel happy. It's like, yay.
We have one more question. One from Althea Cunningham. Can people overcome being, sorry, my chat window moved. Can people overcome being an introvert by acting like an extrovert?
To an extent. Yes. And it depends on the situation. So if you're with your best friend, or if you're going to your favorite childhood place or any other place where you're very comfortable, you will be naturally extroverted. because that's the environment, you feel totally free. And we all do that, right? Wherever our personality switches depending on the location we are. So it will switch. However, there will be a range where you will not go beyond it. You cannot be the life of the party everywhere. You can be life of party to some extent. So, but that is not a problem. And in fact, in some aspects, constant attention is not good. You should be able to pull yourself forward when needed, pull back when needed. If you're constantly trying to just be the circus clown or whatever it is that gets attention, it loses charm. So go out when needed, withdraw when needed, and what will happen is people will start to understand you better and not expect you to show up or perform every time. And that's very useful because the people around you understand, the team around you understands what your preferences are. You can withdraw. In fact, in that book, Susan does mention a few occasions where how teams have shifted, where an introvert who's good with something will go out and present a few times, but not all the time. So the responsibilities are well laid out in that sense.
We have 4 more questions here. One from our conference co-chair, Joy Jones. What can you recommend to extroverts as the best way to engage with introverts?
So the best way for an extrovert to engage introvert is if an extrovert is not picking up on your need to be alone or be quiet, you have to voice your preference. And that preference has to be slowly adjusted over time. So supposing you are an introvert and your spouse is an extrovert, how many social occasions do you go to? How many house parties you hold? What all sporting events or big concerts you attend? Those are all negotiations you do at home. And you have to find the midway point where both are happy. Because if you deny his or her feelings, that's also not fair. So you have to step out so that he or she is happy. And you also let yourself be with you when needed. And usually within a few months, you will get that rhythm right. But you have to obviously do some things for others. Everything cannot be about you. So just take that into account.
We have 3 more questions. We are coming up to the close of the time. If you can briefly respond to these. From Alicia Smith-Sturt, PT, what advice do you have for extroverts on how to tap into their inner introvert in terms of applying it in a situational leadership?
For me, I have found that restraining yourself and listening is very good, which is it's kind of a weakness for extroverts. They're so busy explaining their idea that the listening part is less. So if you learn that, supposing you attend 5 meetings a week or 10, at least for half, I will not speak first. I will let all others speak, and in the last, I will express my idea. So you're building that muscle for listening. And when you build that muscle over time, your grasp of what is said, what is not said, and what was there in between will improve. So this is just a practice, like a different kind of table topics, where instead of speaking out, you speak inwards. Okay, what am I learning here when this person is speaking? And what are their ideas which can work with what I already knew?
Okay, I think we can take one more question. You said you were born an introvert. I always thought it developed from the information, developed from your environment. Can you explain on that?
So for me as an introvert, I would say the first thing as a child, I remember, I was just drawn to books. From the time I could know my ABCs, books were there, and I would spend hours and hours, reading. In fact, in my school library, I was my favorite of the librarian, because while kids read 1 book a week, I would read 3, 4. So I would always check out books and she would keep giving me. However, growing up in India, the environment is such that there are people always around you. So even though I was an introvert, I was not so much of an introvert that I didn't mingle. People will always come in and communicate. So in a way, that was a strength because my environment helped me to be more of an extrovert than I naturally would have. So a higher dense population country helps you with that. And if you don't have that environment where you're around a lot of people to exercise your extroversion, then get into groups where it will help you. So you have to find a group which matches your interest. So supposing you like craft, then get into a crafting club or some place where you start discussing craft with other people. So your interactions will be naturally based on your interest, and that way you will mingle much faster than just in a regular social group. So you have to target your attention to people which match your interest, then the extroversion side of you will come out naturally. We are naturally more happier with people who think like us.
Okay. Thank you. We are close to the end of the presentation. We want to acknowledge our presenters for such an outstanding presentation and teaching us how an introvert like me and some of you could be great leaders too. We would like to give Preeti a great applause